Hello and welcome back to Ready to Ride. In this session we're going to be working the abdominal muscles. We're going to be focusing on working two different sets of abdominals. That's your transversus abdominis and your internal and external obliques. These are your deep abdominal muscles and they have a much greater role in core stability and therefore stabilising your low back and pelvis than do your rectus abdominis. You'll be familiar with that muscle because that's the six-pack muscle, which gives you that lovely toned looking tummy, but actually that muscle doesn't do a huge amount functionally. So doing exercises like straightforward sit-ups doesn't do a huge amount for your core. It might look good afterwards, but it's not the most advantageous exercise to be doing. So I'm going to run through 3 different exercises that are particularly good for working your transversus abdominis and your obliques, and 2 of them are lying down, one's on your hands and knees. They're all fairly simple. I'll talk you through them, demonstrate them, and then you can see how you get on with them. So to start off with, on your back, head resting on a block if you want to. You don't have to use a block, you can go without, but I suggest for this one that you do because it just makes it a little bit easier. Find your neutral tummy position, so you've got that imaginary tray of drinks balanced on your tummy, headlights level, pelvic floor onto floor 3, feet and knees hip width apart and knees bent, and hands onto the mat beside you. Then I'm going to stay looking at you, but you want to look ahead between your legs. And to start off with, you're going to float both of your hands. Reach for your toes, and then rest your hands back down onto the mat. Check pelvic floor, neutral tummy, float your hands, reach for your toes, and then rest back down again. And then the progression of this is to add in your head. And I'm going to demonstrate this first of all. And when you add in lifting with the head, you're aiming to look between your knees. You don't want to be looking upwards because that's going to start lifting your chin and working the wrong muscles through your neck. You want the whole movement to be very seamless and aim to keep your hands going towards your toes rather than up into the air. Okay, we're now going to change to do an exercise working the obliques specifically. So you need to have one hand behind the bottom of your head, top of your neck, and you float the other hand by your side. Same setup, neutral pelvis position, pelvic floor onto floor 3. Then you float that hand, reach for your toes, and then you need to turn with your elbow. So that turn takes you towards the opposite knee. And you're using your elbow to guide the direction of your shoulder. You're aiming to keep your tummy nice and flat and still, and your headlights level. If you find that you are pulling with your hand, then put your hand behind your ear instead. Then you swap and do the same thing in the opposite way. So you're floating your hand, reach for the toes, and elbow towards the opposite knee. Always keeping the pelvic floor onto floor 3 and that nice neutral pelvic position. Okay, so let's move on to one on your hands and knees. You can get rid of your headrest for this one. And we're going to do what's called the leg pull. We're going to do it in 2 stages. So you want your hands just in front of your shoulders and your toes underneath your feet and your knees underneath your hips. Pelvic floor onto floor 3, and then you're quite simply going to lift your knees away from the mat. Then rest them back down again. Pelvic floor onto floor 3, lift the knees and slowly back down again. And it is as simple as that. Hopefully you can keep your pelvic floor working at the same time. You can make it harder just by holding that position for a little bit longer. And if you find that really easy, you can make it a wee bit harder. So, hands in front of shoulders this time, pelvic floor onto floor 3, lift the knees and then push forward. You're aiming to be pretty straight from shoulders, hips, knees to toes. Hover back over the knees and rest down. Pelvic floor into the lift, push forwards, hover back over the knees and rest down. Some people find if they've got arthritic toes, this is a particularly difficult exercise to do. What I've found sometimes works is wearing shoes. That just gives a little bit more support to the feet. But an alternative is to roll up a towel and rest the front of your foot onto the towel. That doesn't cure the problem, but it can make things a little bit more bearable. If you're finding this exercise is particularly easy and you want to make it a little bit more advanced, you can make it one step harder. So you float, reach forwards, and then you can lift alternate legs in that position before you come back to your finishing point. I wouldn't suggest doing that unless you feel really competent with the first levels, but it's always worth having a goal for you to work towards. So I hope that you find those exercises useful. There's a good little few to work through, and the key always is you're aiming to be working your transversus abdominis and your oblique muscles, not your six pack. So give them a go, and I'll see you again very soon.